the one time where you guys were supposed to race in Arizona and y'all ended up racing in Mexicali?
I'm thinking that it was probably 1978. It could have been 1979. But I think SCORE had a problem with the BLM with some land issues in California. I don't know, they couldn't do everything they wanted. So I'd say within a week of when the race was supposed to happen, they knew they weren't going to get it to happen in Arizona and California. So they quickly made a change to Mexico, to Baja, northern Baja, and the race started in Mexicali, and it went south just like to the north end of Diablo Dry Lake. And then turned, they laid out the course, turned and went up to Mike's Sky Ranch, then from Mike's Sky Ranch to Trinidad, and then up over the summit, and then back up Laguna Salada into Mexicali. So
That's a gnarly course.
yes, it was. And it was the early part of the year, and we don't really race a lot of races in Baja. The first, like, the Parker 400 is usually in February. So we went down there. Nobody got to pre-run. At least, I don't know if the course was open for pre-running, but I know I didn't pre-run. We just went down and raced. The race started off and left Mexicali immediately, and it started raining. I can't remember where I started, what position I started in, but I know there was quite a few cars that started in front of me. We proceeded down the course, and didn't have any issues. I probably passed a few cars here and there. There was no dust, which was nice. And then we started heading up San Mateos Pass to head up to Mike's. And when I got to the San Mateos Pass, it was really raining and just about freezing. And they said that the weather was so bad that there were some people there that blocked us from going up to Mike's. They said just go straight up San Mateos Pass and up to Valley of Trinidad, and they'll direct you over the summit to which way you need to go. Well, anyway, coming up through San Mateos Pass, my gloves got soaking wet, and I was, we went down the highway for 15 miles as fast as you could go. Well, I'm trying to drive my Class 1 car at 100 miles an hour with no windshield with wet gloves. About halfway through it, my hands got so cold. I mean, I don't know if I had frostbite, but my hands felt like they were on fire. So when I got to my pit that was in Valley of Trinidad, I pulled up to my pit and stopped, and I had to get out of the car. I could not. My hands were so bad, I had to get out of the car. Went in, I told everybody, it's like my hands are like just, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, I got in a truck, put my hands under the heater, was working under the heater with them, trying to warm them up, do everything. And my crew there, one of my crewmen's wives was there, and she had, let's see, shall we say, really large breast. And anyway, she said, Mark says, I can warm them up. And she lifted up her top and told me to put her hands under her breast. So I thought, this heater thing isn't working. How can I refuse this? So anyway, and her husband was there. He said, go for it. And I said, okay. So anyway, up they went. Within, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, the feeling started to come back in him. So, I could tell what was going on, then I could feel him. So anyway, about 15 minutes later, I thought maybe it's time I should go head towards Mexicali to the finish. So I got back in the race car and took off and went up over the summit. It was still raining and pouring really bad. I know at one point I had to stop and get some guys. There were some Mexican spectators there, and I said, hey, can you guys wash my goggles? And like they cleaned my goggles with beer because they didn't have any water, so they gave me my goggles. Put the goggles on, and it's just like,
Ew.
Stunk to high heaven. I don't know why, so I had to throw the goggles on the floor and proceeded up over the summit. And then over the summit, coming down the summit, it was so cold up there that those old Chinook 1000s that I raced had an air log on them with air cleaners and a hose that went up into a canister, went into the carburetor. And that big long hose, the air intake's coming through there, and it freezes over. So it froze over the butterfly in the Zenith carburetor. I think there's 2 butterflies in it. But anyway, I'm coming down the summit, hit the bottom in the wash, and the third gear hauling ass along and the throttle sticks. So I'm bouncing through the wash headed towards Kobuzo Junction with the throttle stuck, bouncing around. And anyway, finally got that thought out, and I took off, went to the finish, came up to the finish line, and I'm not sure who won the race, but there was 2 other Class 1 cars beat me. I finished 3rd place in Class 1, and I'm thinking Ivan Stewart. I'm pretty sure Ivan Stewart's in the BF Goodrich Fillmore Ford that I have now was at the finish line ahead of time, because I remember going up and looking at it, and I was amazed looking at the rear tires. He had BF Goodrich tires on there, and they were pretty well chewed. The tread, he just peeled all the tread off of them, but the tires held up, and I know he won Class 8. And if I hadn't have spent so much time in the pits in Valley of Trinidad warming my hands, I probably would have won the race.
It's a good story. That's a really good story. Little side note, yes, it does get warm down there. I understand.
Okay. Yep, and I'm aware of that too.
It's awesome. So we've gone to 3 different locations with you now to film this. So do you know where we're at today?
We're at about 10,200 feet high, probably 50 miles north of Zion National Park.
Yep.
And I'm going to, my guess, because I've never been up in this area my whole life, it's absolutely beautiful. If you ever get a chance to go anywhere and want to see beautiful scenery nonstop, this is the place to come. But I think we're probably 30, 40, 50 miles to the west of Bryce. Yep. Okay. Yep. And we're going to Bryce Canyon tomorrow to explore and have some adventures there.
Yep. Tell me about how do you differentiate SCORE versus NORRA races? What's the big difference to you that you notice, because you've raced both?
The main difference is forever the SCORE races, you know, they lay out the course and you can always pre-run them. I think there was some races that were United States that they didn't let you pre-run. That may only have been the High Desert Series, but anyway, the SCORE races, like we would go like every weekend down and pre-run the course for a month before the race. So, you know, and try and learn everything you could about the course, because back when I was doing it in the late 70s, early 80s, you had no GPS. There was course markers, and my goal was to learn the course, to know where to go if the course markers were gone, because a lot of the course markers had a habit of disappearing, whether cows were eating them, yep, or somebody was collecting them for souvenirs. So we pre-ran a whole lot, and we would have a lot of fun with other teams racing, guys we knew, you know, pre-running, kind of pre-racing Ensenada to San Felipe, and who gets there first and all that kind of stuff. And then you'd come back and do the race, and you'd do tech and contingency day, and then the next day the race would start, and you would run the whole race nonstop to the finish was your goal. You know, try and do the best you could, and if you did good enough in your class where you're going to get a trophy or whatever, you went to the awards, said goodbye to everybody, and went home. The NORRA races, there's no pre-running, but everybody goes down a day or two ahead of time, and we go on in front of the Riviera Convention Center in Ensenada, and everybody hangs out there Friday, Saturday. You show your cars, you hang out and talk, you meet everybody you know that you haven't seen since the last race, and then you go do the tech that takes 10 minutes, and you do the tech, and then there's a driver's meeting that night, and then the NORRA races start, and you do a leg every day for 5 days, working your way to Cabo. And every night, at the end of the night, the end of that first leg, NORRA has a party. You know, you get to the finish line, and the NORRA girls are there, and they give you a shot of tequila, and they give you a peninsular beer, and you have the beer, and then you go find out where the food in the party is, and they might have a little, you know, they might fill you in on a couple things that you might need to know for the next day, and you can hang out with all the people that you're racing with, and you can all tell each other how fast you were that day and why you beat them. Yep. And you get to do that for 5 days in a row. And then you get to Cabo, and then the next day there is one hell of a party where there's all kinds of good food. They give away a tremendous amount of hardware to everybody, fireworks display, and it's just, there's a whole lot more camaraderie at the NORRA Mexican 1000. And I mean, you know, there's no money involved, and you're not, you know, but when you put a race car driver behind the wheel, the main thing he wants to do is kick everybody else's that's in the race. So, you know, they say it's not a race, but that is bull crap. It's a race because you don't want to. Second place is the first loser.
Yeah, everybody says, you know, we're just down here for the happiest race on earth, but that green flag drops and it's game on.
Yes.
It is go time. And it's funny because a few years ago, I know we had several classes that were, yeah, we're just down here for fun. And next thing you know, it is scramble within seconds between first, second, and third place to see who's going to get the big trophy.
Exactly.
And what's cool about NORRA, you mentioned the trophies. Mike Perlman actually has built the mold for the trophy,
Yep.
and that's where it comes from. But then you have the era awards, the bigger trophies, and those are giant.
Yes, and those are the era trophy is the one you really want to win, because the era trophies are really cool. Steve McQueen's is on one of them. The one that I've been fortunate enough to win for the last 4 years in a row has Frank Scoop Vessels on it, who was a fierce competitor with me 40 years ago. So it is like a real honor to win that trophy. Manny Mascara's on one of them.
Yep.
Corky McMillan's on one of them, and Corky used to support me in my racing endeavors in Baja 40 years ago. I think there's some famous motorcycle racers that are on some of them. So
Yeah.
it's an honor to win one of those big 40-pound era trophies.
Yes, yes, they are not light.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, awesome. Easy.
The Onyx mine at El Marmol is half an hour above Catavina,
Okay.
I think. There's a sign there. It says El Marmol.
Yeah.
And there's an onyx mine. It's 6 or 8 miles out there. And there's all kinds of chunks of onyx for the mine. And there's like an old schoolhouse. It has 2-foot thick walls made of onyx. And the 1978 Baja 1000, the trophies, I think the class, I don't know if all the class trophies were onyx or maybe the overall ones, but I got 2 trophies that weighed 110 pounds each.
Wow.
I almost couldn't carry. Luckily, I had a great big guy on my crew that used to wrestle in high school and played football and all that shit. He had to carry the trophies off the stage to our truck. I won the Baja 1000 overall in 1978 and 1980. And I think Larry Rossler was winning the Baja 1000 overall every year, probably 3 years before and 3 years after and all in between. So he was winning overall nonstop on a motorcycle. Him and AC Bakken and Mitch Mays, and I know he had a few different co-riders that rode with him. Well, anyway, we were up on stage, he and I, and they were passing out the overall trophies for the car class and the overall trophies for the bike class. And they'd always give you 2 trophies for winning your class for the driver and the co-driver, and the overall trophy. And a lot of times the Department of Tourism would give you a trophy. And I was winning the Valvoline Ironman Award also, so Sal Fish is giving me all these trophies, and I'm trying to hold them all. And luckily, Larry Rossler was there to help me hold all the trophies that I won. So I don't know how many of you can say that Larry Rossler has helped hold the trophies that you won, but I feel that's a pretty good honor to have that.
Well, awesome. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
It's been fun.